Alright, I'm back. I took a couple of weeks off for some work stuff that I had to get done, but I'm now back on the project, so let me show you what's going on. There's a few issues that I'm going to need to address soon, so let's have a little peek. You can see I put this 1x1 steel tube, it's like an 1/8 inch thick 120 wall going across to support this bulkhead since I cut so much of it out. On the back side I've got, you can't see it really, let me see if I can swing this around here. This is hard to show, but I've got some 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square tubing down here underneath that same bulkhead. And that's giving me a problem because my frame rail here is now hitting on that little bit of piece there. So what I need to do is I need to go ahead and pull the suspension out again. Who knows how many times I've done that already. And I am going to put like a little 1-inch notch right there on top of both frame rails. And that should allow this frame to go level again. I can't quite get this thing level right now because of that interference. There's another issue I'm having as far as leveling this thing out. And if I look way down here, oh, it gets really dark down in there. Okay, but the suspension cradle, as the suspension starts to level out, that suspension cradle is hitting my transmission. Remember, this transmission is pushed back 4 inches from the factory, so that I can try to minimize the intrusion of the transmission into the passenger compartment. But the flange is hitting on the transmission in exactly the wrong spot, and I tried to give it a little bit of a trim with a die grinder. It's not going to be enough. So the transmission either needs to go forward 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches, or it needs to go backwards so I can clear that little bit of a flange, just this flange, like, I don't know, it holds a couple pieces together back there. I don't think I can go back 1.5 inches because of the angle of the drive shaft, or I should say half shaft, to the spindle out here. So that means bringing it forward 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Going up. Drag a little bit. Fine. That'll be a 3-inch setback for that transmission instead of a 4. That should work. Alright, so anyway, I've got the frame notched and the new holes drilled for the transmission mount. So we're going to slide this back underneath and drop the body down and see how it looks. So here we go. There we go. Okay, let's go up a little bit. Right there, right there.
Okay.
Right there. Now go down again. Yeah, it's these little side bolts on the transmission cover that I had to relieve the subframe before, and now that I moved the transmission forward an inch, I'm hitting in some new places.
New place, huh?
Brand new. There and there. I gotta notch some windows in there just like I did before. So. But yeah, you can see I notched these areas out quite a bit more, so hopefully they'll give me the room I need for those bolts to drop down into place here. So we're gonna slide this back under the vet again, and hopefully it'll fit this time. And alright, so we've got the frame back in here, and it's mostly level. I may can move up a little bit more, but the 3x4 frame section it's in there. Okay, we've clearanced the aluminum chassis for the transmission. I think I'm going to add a little bit more spacers in the back to kind of push it down a little bit more, so this thing can be more neutral instead of having to rely on the frame to kick it back. But that's not a big deal. Next step, I'm going to be taking some more of this frame material, and we're going to be running it down the back side of this panel here and welding it together and marking it, and we'll start maybe we can start working on the side. Alright, so I am using this 3" by 4" square tube, rectangle tube, and I've cut them off to 54 inches in length. That should get me pretty much from the back end to about the curvy section up toward the front. And I don't know if I'm going to continue this 3x4 up to the 2x4 frame rails or not. We'll see how it goes once I get up there. But right now I'm just trying to hook this up in the back. I've measured the body mounts, and they are roughly 2.5 inches from the end and 44 inches. So I am just going to weld on these 1x3 plates. Just going to center them here. And then once I have it under the car, I can mark exactly where I want to drill the holes for the nuts I'm going to be welding in. Let's see if we can put this piece underneath the Corvette. so I got 3 2x underneath that frame rail. And I've got this 60-degree pie cut on the back side, bumped up against this fiberglass. You guys can't see it here, but there's like a 60-degree flare. The fiberglass that really wants to kind of cradle this pie cut here. So I'm going to use that as a reference point. So let's drop this down just another inch. Like that. Woo! There it is. Alright, there it is. 4.5 inches off the ground. Alright guys, zooming in here. So alright, so here's my 3x4. And that is the approximate place where the frame rail is going to be dropping down at about a 60-degree angle. And a couple of options here. One is I could just take that frame rail here, 12.5 inches, and stop it right there. Or I could extend it out a little bit further, maybe 18 inches, and cap it off, and then maybe put some kind of a removable cross member in there that will help to reinforce the frame. I kind of like that idea. And then of course if I ever need to remove the transmission or the rear end, you know, 2 bolts on each side and that piece will drop out, and that'll allow the transmission to drop out as well. But I like being able to tie in these 2 sides here. That just makes me feel warm and fuzzy. So, alright. A couple of 18-inch pieces then. Let's see how they fit. Alright, let's see if I can slide this in place with the camera in front of me here. There we go. Get that out of the way. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to square that up, but there we go. That's looking pretty snazzy. Snazzy. So this is the driver's side frame rail. And before, I'll grind that down. Before I mounted this body mount tab this way. But I cut this one here a 1/4 inch shorter. And I think I'm going to flip it around and mount it like this. That'll allow it easier for me to get in there and weld on that other piece as well. But it's a little crooked, so I'm going to tune this up first. Alright guys, well here is my finished driver's side frame rail. So now I've got to slide this around and get it put up on these blocks, 4.5 inches of blocks. And I need to make sure they're well aligned in the back before I mark where to drill. That looks straight to me in the back, but let's go ahead and drop it down. Let's see. Alright, well this is interesting. I'm trying to get this frame lined up in here, and the body is completely down all the way. There's nothing holding it up. I've checked. There's nothing holding up the body, but one of these frame rails is just a little bit off of my 4.5 inch support. So this body is really just being held up by 3 mounts right now. The frame is tight against the body, and the frame is also off. So I'm going to install a couple of these little spacers, adjusting shims, in there and see if I can push that frame down and see if it lines up better. Okay, well, I am still not quite happy with the way this frame is sitting, even after I shimmed this side about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and measure across here. Well, what's going on here is I've got a little bit of a rise toward the middle of the car. So when these frames are sitting on these inside the Corvette body in the mounts, it allows a little bit of a twist, and I can kind of push this around a little bit and move it around. So there's a little fudge factor going on there. But I want this frame straight across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out. Well, first I'm going to measure this distance, pull it out, and then we'll weld this piece of 2x2 to the outside of it, and then put it back in here. And that should give me enough flex still to make sure this thing fits in the front okay. So let's measure and pull it back out. Alright, so I measured exactly 50 inches, which I think is kind of weird, but that's what it measures. So, all right, well there it is. I went ahead and rotated those two mounting boxes, whatever you want to call those things. So we're going to slide this thing back underneath the Corvette, and we'll see how it fits. So this might be a little noisy. That's pretty good, actually. All right, I can live with that. That's in, so now I need to make some uprights to connect this frame to the rear subframe. That's going to be tricky.